Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about three elements: intensity, consistency and rest, that you need to get in the right proportion to really improve your game. So if that's of interest, stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk about these three things: intensity, consistency and rest. But before we do that, I want to give you an analogy. To create fire, you need three elements. You need oxygen, you need heat, and you need fuel. And it's the same with training. To improve consistently, to improve correctly, you need these three elements. So let's talk about each one and we'll see how they work all together in a circle. So the first one is intensity. Now, most of my videos are focused towards club players, people probably from around 25 to around 50. That's what my analytics tell me that's the viewer, and that's what I'm really trying to make my videos for. So when I talk about intensity, I'm talking about how hard you train, how long you train for. Now when I say train, I don't specifically mean just fitness training. I mean practicing, solo work, that kind of thing. And in general, I like my pupils to be working at around 80%. Now, I'm not specifically saying, for example, 80% of your maximum heart rate or hitting the ball at 80% of your maximum. What I'm thinking is that at the end of a training session, you should feel as though you worked really hard, but you should also be able to say, I could have worked harder. If I had needed to, I could have done. I could have gone that extra step. But at the same time, you need to feel that you worked hard. I'm not suggesting that you just do these easy sessions. And deciding exactly what 80% is a very difficult thing, and you'll have to sort of, go by trial and error. You have to try a few different sessions. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to work too hard, because if you are a regular club player or a regular person, you will have family life, you will have work life, you will have other hobbies. I recognise that you cannot devote a lot of time to those things. And if you work too hard, then what will happen is you'll get mental fatigue, you'll get physical fatigue. And it's better to work at 80% over a longer period of time, and I don't mean each training session necessarily, than training hard and then not doing it enough. Which brings us on to the next section, which is consistency. Consistency means that if you set yourself the goal of training 3 or 4 times a week, you do that. You train those 3 times or 4 times a week. Now, while I talked about being the club players, I know that you probably can't train every day. Not that you necessarily want to. Sure, if you're 20, you can probably train every day. Not only do you have enough time, but you have enough energy and your body's young enough. But as you get older, that gets a little bit harder. Partly because you've got more responsibilities and partly because you're getting tired. So consistency here means making sure that you don't take too many breaks. Now, let's just go back one step. If you train too hard, well, maybe you feel that you need more space between each training session, which drops your consistency. Maybe you get injured, which drops your consistency. By training at 80%, it allows you to train for maybe 1 month, and this is 3 months of 3 or 4 times a week before you take a longer rest. That's what I mean by consistency. If you have to keep stopping because you're injured, because you have no time, because you mentally fatigued because the last 2 training sessions were so hard, you really can't motivate yourself. And we know what that's like, well, we should do. That I've had training sessions, I'm sure you have as well, where you've trained so hard that the next time you train you're a bit hesitant because that last training session was just, wow, it really killed me. And you don't really want that to happen. You want to be looking forward to each training session. Now, once you've done, say, 3 months or at least 6 weeks to 2 months of 3 or 4 times a week, you can increase the intensity of some of those sessions. So what I'm trying to say here is that I prefer slightly lower intensity over a longer period of time, measured in weeks and months, not like each training session. That will bring you greater benefit than very hard sessions that are intermittent. Now it brings us on to the next one, rest. Now there's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion about rest. Too many people think that rest is something you do because you're tired. You rest because you can't train anymore, and that's not true, and I want to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Your body needs to adapt. Imagine that you do a training session. Well, let's say you do some, you do some weights. The muscles sort of send out a signal to the rest of the body, which is, oh my God, did you see what just happened? Wow, that was really tough. We need to improve. And what happens is the fibers in the muscles become a little bit stronger. Now, if the break between that session and the next training session is too long, those muscle fibers won't stay strong. They'll atrophy. They'll become weaker, and we don't want that to happen. If the training session time between the training sessions is too short, those muscles haven't had time to adapt. Okay, so it's an extreme, but imagine you train very hard for one session, and then you leave it for another month because you're just so tired, and then you train again. You're not going to get much benefit. Rest is an essential part of training. It is when the body adapts to that training. It is not simply a case of just not doing anything because you're tired. Your body is not a car. You get in a car and you drive and you drive and you drive, and when you slow down and when you stop, you're taking longer to get to your destination. It doesn't work that way with the body. You wouldn't want to train all of the time, even if you had enough energy. Your body needs time to adapt. It needs time to make the changes to make you fitter. There are some types of speed work that are still improving in your body 1 week after you've done those training sessions. And that comes back to intensity. If you've trained too hard and you've got to have too much rest between each training session, then you're not maximizing your time. If you're training too hard and you're not giving yourself enough rest because you think you're being lazy, because rest is lazy, then you're not giving your body enough time to adapt, and it will take longer to improve. Each one of those three elements is part of a circle. Get them in the wrong order and the rest of them don't work very well. So that's what I really want you to think about. Now, a lot of the questions that I'm going to get after this video will be, well, how hard do I need to train? How often do I need to train? How long do I need to rest? And I'm sorry, I can't give you that. You either need to talk to your coach, or you need to just by trial and error experiment with a few things. But essentially, I would suggest approximately 80%. If you can finish every training session and say, I worked really hard, but I could have done a bit more, good. Anything between 3 and a maximum of 5 days a week for regular club plays is exactly what you need. And rest should really be about making sure that each time that you train in your new session, you feel excited about it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and remember, do something every single day for your squash. And that doesn't mean training, that could be stretching or mental exercises. There'll be another video for that soon. Thanks for watching. See ya.